Hello, everyone. I'm the Honorable Ron Villanueva. Joined with me today is a special guest, Nadine
Paniccia.
Paniccia, Italian. You would think Villanueva, Paniccia.
Paniccia.
And she's today joining us for the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce Civic Engagement Platform. Here in a couple weeks, we're going to have some city council elections. And folks got to realize that local issues impact them the most. Nadine is stepping up, wanting to run in the at-large race. She has two other challengers, but she has a great platform. And one of the things I picked up on was you want to get back to basics. As a mother of a school teacher, a businesswoman, and a civic activist, those are important. Getting back to basics because of COVID, you're going to find out City Council needs to prioritize a lot of its priorities. What do you think the top priorities are here in Virginia Beach, according to you?
So, according to me, when I say get back to basics, it's COVID has shaken our foundation. So it's shaken our emotional foundations, but it's also shone light on our physical foundation in the city of Virginia Beach. Our infrastructure, for example, has been pretty much ignored for the 34 years that I've lived here. And our services, like our stormwater services, are backlogged anywhere from 6 to 15 years. We have neighborhoods flooding that have never flooded before. So when I talk about our foundation, I'm talking about literally our foundation, the foundation of our city. And these are not going to be inexpensive fixes. And in some cases, we've kicked the can down the road so many years that we have no choice now but to deal with some of this stuff. So when I say step back, I mean step back from business perspective, step back from a foundation perspective, analyze where we are financially after COVID, and then make decisions accordingly moving forward. Slowly make decisions to best serve the public moving forward.
Nadine, as a former city councilman, wishing you all the best of luck. What we always find out once we get in there is that, man, there's just so many priorities, but we don't have an unlimited purse string.
Right.
So do you see, because of COVID, do you see the city council cutting and freezing programs or raising taxes and fees to help justify some of these priorities that you're talking about?
From my perspective, I'm very concerned about our coastal environment here. We're the 12th most fragile coastal community in the country. And if we don't get very active in fortifying ourselves, nothing else is going to matter, right? It's like a domino effect. If we flood, that means our neighborhoods flood. That means our housing gets, affected. That means our schools get affected. And this domino effect just goes, endlessly down, like New Orleans. And people have said, we're on our way if we don't step back and analyze what we're dealing with. So yes, I understand that there's, the budget's wieldy, and I am not a fan of raising taxes, especially when we are behind in services that we've promised but haven't delivered, the taxpayers. But what I do think we can do is reprioritize the departments. So I was in line at the polls, and I've met some unbelievably interesting people in line. One of them happened to be a public works guy. He's a great guy, and he heard me talking to the folks behind him, and I was saying, public works can't possibly close the gap of 6 to 15 years in their current state. And he says, you're absolutely right. Both engineering and public works have been understaffed pre-COVID significantly. The retention rate is terrible. I don't know if that's a function of not paying folks enough, or if it's a function of not hiring the right people and letting them do what's best for the coastal city that we live in. I don't know what the challenge is. What I do know is that it's irresponsible for a city to leave those two departments, that poorly staffed, when weather patterns are increasing every single day, they're not stopping, right? And we're sitting ducks. So part of our flooding issues are because stormwater can't catch up. Public Works cannot possibly catch up right now in its current state. So I would say, and I have to look at the budget, but I would say there's probably room to move, not cut, move, so that these two departments become fortified, so that it protects the residents that live here.
I remember Nadine being on council for many years, and then in the General Assembly, and it always found government always has a trouble retaining, like engineers.
Yeah.
Because the private marketplace pays more.
Yes.
And with regards to governments, the main benefit, the main attraction was obviously a great workplace, but benefits and compensation. You talked a little bit about enhancing public safety. Is that what you meant by taking care of public safety and increasing the ranks there?
It's both. So to me, public safety number one, or public enemy number one, is our flooding situation, because it affects people in complete neighborhoods. And it affects you when you're driving on Laskin Road or in Chesapeake and Colony or Red Mill this summer, and you have to leave your vehicle because the water is rising up through the car doors. That is that's a tragedy waiting to happen for us. So that, of course, and along with our police departments, that's an important area also. And the areas that affect public safety need to be built up in our city. And I think the paradigm here is that they may have thought it somewhere in the back of their head, but they didn't embrace that flooding and infrastructure are public safety issues. And they're getting to be more and more every single day that the weather continues to have this intense pattern, and it does not show a sign of stopping.
Nadine, we know that flooding and flooding mitigation is a high priority for council. I remember years ago, we were shaking our heads here in the 21st district, Centerville and
Yes.
Pennsville. There was flooding where we're like, where's all this water coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And we found out, like what you were saying, our infrastructure was poorly degraded. We didn't do enough for flooding mitigation, but the cost of fixing all that is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Would you support a bond referendum issue to increase monies and revenues to get the backlog of flooding programs forward?
I would support that if I was able to carefully look at the plan that was where that money was actually going to be spent, right? So I wouldn't want to plunge the city into some debt without completely or mostly completely embracing the plan that they have in place. I mean, they spent, I think it was $3.4 million on a study that's been a 5-year study in the making. And during that study, they left the Southern watershed completely out of it. And Councilwoman Henley, to her credit, said, I'm not signing off on that until we put the Southern watershed back in. So, I've looked at it, but so the answer is yes, I would. I would absolutely support a bond referendum. I would also support actively working with, like you said, the state and the federal governments, a full-time job. That's a full-time job of lobbying to get the support we need. And I think if we do care about it, if it's vitally important to us, we will do that. We will make that happen. Sadly, we should have been making it happen prior to COVID, right? So now we're in a situation where everybody's strapped for available monies, and we're going to have to make do with the short little interim fixes that we can until we get the bond, until we can, pull money from the state and the federal government. So we're going to have, it's going to be a slow process, but we need to start it now.
Nadine, you talked a little bit about economic diversification as part of your platform. You work at the oceanfront.
Yep.
The oceanfront is like the crown jewel of Virginia Beach with regards to revenues.
Yeah.
You tried for many years to pivot and grow different industries. Where do you think our strategy is succeeding, and where do you think we need to pivot and focus on?
You know, the city's done a solid job with what it's had, but I've lived here for 34 years, and I've listened to the mayors and the city councils for years say that we have to grow an industry. We need a fourth leg to the stool, that we have a three-legged stool right now. And what is it? The chickens have come home to roost in a way. So we have agriculture, we have tourism, and we have the military. The military is fairly self-sustainable. You know, when they have a problem like flooding, they step up and say, we have to do something. You know what I mean? But agriculture is being affected by our weather, as is tourism, right? Tourism is not only affected by weather patterns, it's affected by COVID in a really big way. So what has happened to us in 2020 is our fragility has shown itself. And in order to continue to grow as a city, I believe we need a fourth industry. I also believe that due to our location in the country and the fact that we are a coastal community that is fragile, we have the opportunity to create green industry here. Green energy, green infrastructure solutions, green agriculture, green everything, instead of sending our engineers, our young kids who graduate from schools, to places like Colorado and other places that are embracing the industry. I think we have an opportunity to put it right here.
I love when you say fragile. Remember A Christmas Story for Gile?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
Italian. So no, you're right. There's a lot of fragile infrastructure. You know, your answer is great with regards to pivoting towards, you know, a lot of the green initiatives. And with regards to green initiatives, when you look at Virginia Beach, there's a lot of square footage.
Oh yeah.
We've built up a lot of Virginia Beach because of COVID. You know, our density patterns dictate, hey man, it's probably not cool to build up anymore. So they're looking at you know, maybe transitioning to Green Line and South. I mean, what do you say about that?
I say that's a very dangerous proposition for the public. I say that challenge and that the water table is extremely high out there. If that is the path they're going down, the infrastructure that they are going to have to put in is going to cost. It's going to be outrageous to protect what is built and to protect the folks that buy into it, right? Asheville Park is a prime example of a neighborhood that should never have been built. And everyone who lived out there looked across the road and said, that's a tragedy. That cannot work there. So I think it's very imperative to understand that, yes, it's the last bastion of open space in the city, but we're not limited to that. We have empty buildings throughout the city that can be repurposed with some inventive thought. If we incentivize our developers to do a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. We incentivized you just said we don't want to build up. We just incentivized Westminster Canterbury to go ahead and put 22 floors on Shore Drive. We ignored the ordinance. You know, we gave so that could happen. We could do that with these buildings that are already sitting there, that are empty and vacant. So I don't necessarily agree with the philosophy that we have to build more sprawl. I believe that we have to get very diligent and build on those areas that we call our strategic growth areas. They're already here. They're not maximized.
So with regards to maximizing our strategic growth areas, as you know, we have a development authority. Part of your campaign is talking about transparency. A lot of folks don't know what the development authority does. So how would you improve transparent issues in city government?
Well, it's interesting. I talk about this a lot because people are very concerned about diversity and opportunity for all here, right? So I don't know how I think that the Development Authority gets chosen the same way as every other commission in our city, right? So it goes through the city council. The city council recommends who sits where and who does what. And the challenge that we have, I believe, in this city after 34 years living here, is that the career politicians have a network of people that they have a vision somewhere, right? There's a vision somewhere, and they are filling those positions with people of like minds. They're not filling those positions with people who may have a different vision. So when I'm not suggesting that it's cloak and dagger or anything like that. I'm just suggesting that it's not transparent. We don't know who these folks are, right? Really, the public has no idea who they are. And I feel like we need to adjust how we put people in these positions.
I remember being on council and I said the same thing. I mean, you have 11 development authority members, a lot of it's patronage. But when I was there, I was able to convince fellow council members that you need to diversify and put people in different sectors. For instance, defense industry, hospitality, retail, agriculture.
Right.
I mean, when's the last time you've seen somebody from the agriculture industry on the development authority?
I think they're on the planning commission.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a couple gentlemen on the planning commission, but I'm not seeing, there's committees that but I don't believe they're on that commission, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think.
See, so. I mean, you're bringing up some great things like, planning commission, development authority, city council. A lot of them, they're separate entities appointed by council, but yet there's no coordination.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's one of the efforts you're going to push, right? When you get
I'm definitely going to tackle the appointment process as it stands. Like, I've talked to so many folks during this process of campaigning. Nadine, how do I get involved? Like, how did you get involved in this? And I explained to them, I got on a couple boards that really interested me, the Vibe District and Back Bay, and I respect both immensely. I said, but you can apply. You could fill out paperwork to be appointed to one of these commissions. And they're like, what? They've lived here 15 years. They have no idea that that's how you go about doing that. And to be transparent, I had to have my paperwork in there for 4 years, never got a call, never even got like, come on in, I want to talk to you about this. I don't know where those papers are in the city at this point, but I mean, I just think it's interesting. There's been no communication, no contact, no nothing. So I think that needs to be addressed to broaden the scope of input in some of these discussions.
Nadine, you and I can talk all day long. You seem like an old friend. Well, in this segment, let's do a grab bag of issues.
Okay.
I'm gonna name some topics, and you just throw it out there. How you feel about them.
Okay.
Rudy Loop.
Okay, so I do not want to see. I respect the surf culture in Virginia Beach. I greatly respect the fact that that is the last bastion at the ocean front that is available for development. I've heard all kinds of rumors about high rises and God bless America, even a casino, which, I don't think that would be wise there. But anyway, I've heard all kinds of things. And I would hope that we could listen to the public on that issue and seriously talk to them about, okay, if we had to put a development on there, what else do you guys want to see? If that is what we have to do to be responsible and create revenue, right, for the city, there should be a huge amount of emphasis on keeping the history of our city as it pertains to this unique surf culture that we do have on the East Coast. So my initial is don't develop it. I would love to see a park there.
Right on. Let's talk about small women and minority businesses. The city's tackled a lot of these issues with regards to diversity and procurement.
Yes.
I mean, where do you think they're succeeding, and where do you think they can improve?
I think they did a diversity study, if I'm not mistaken, a few years back, and feel like we didn't really hear about it. And I think we need to implement that study. And there's one person on council that I know is always promoting the small minority business. What is it? That went right on my head.
Swam.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, I want to call it Swam. Is Sabrina. She talks about it all the time. I mean, every time she can, she is very actively involved in that. And I will tell you, I was a business owner, my female business owner back in the day when I worked with the East Coast Surfing Championships. It's not easy. And we didn't have anyone to talk to at the city when we started our company. So I'm a big firm believer that we need an ombudsman or some kind of department at the city to help small businesses get started and stay strong. I mean, 3 to 5 years is like the scary point for a small business. You make it or break it there. And what I understand more than ever from my days in media is that a lot of folks are so busy getting their businesses off the ground that marketing and pushing those services out is not their forte, right? So I think if we could create a department within the city that focused on the marketing aspects of your business and just tips constantly, that could be a benefit for people, especially now after COVID. There's going to be so many folks that need help.
With regards to COVID relief, the city's done 2 rounds of small business grants. I mean, I think that needs to continue from what it sounds like it does.
I think it needs to continue, and I don't know what the end date of that is. And I think we need to really probably sit down and get a plan for that. But, we do a lot of public-private partnerships in the city that benefit an industry or you know what I mean? We can possibly do an umbrella for a specific period of time that is dedicated to the creation and the fortification of small businesses. And until we get it back to a place that it needs to be, it's a possibility. And when I say public-private, I'm talking about the B poll tax, relief there, the entertainment taxes for venues and, things like that. And I know that the city needs money too, but there may be a way, again, looking at that budget carefully and redirecting some things that we could support, because that is the backbone of our city.
What do you think about free parking at the beach?
Oh, I know that every local in town would absolutely love that. Or at least a discount, a consistent discount, right?
Yeah.
When I lived in Boston, you got a discount as a local. That was years and years and years ago. I'm not sure what's happening there now. Free parking's a big deal for locals.
Nadine, how do folks get in touch with you if they have further questions?
So I have a Facebook page, Nadine Marie Paniccia for Virginia Beach City Council. And I have a website, and that's nadineforvb.com. And my email, nadineforvb@gmail.com.
Nadine, you're a tremendous leader. We appreciate you stepping up and wanting to lead our city. You have great ideas. To our viewers, we hope you get out and vote, be active, be engaged. Thank you, Nadine, for joining us at the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Nadine. Good luck.
Bye-bye.